Tonight on Action News, there's a new direct link between the Rocket City and the nation's capital.
And Gurley has some national recognition now. It's even outdone some of the biggest cities in the USA.
Plus, if you're a coffee lover, we've got an experience you might enjoy.
The news is next.
Now, from the heart of the Tennessee Valley, this is Action News 19.
Good evening, I'm Kimberly Van Scoy.
And I'm Jerry Hayes. Huntsville now has a direct link to the nation's capital.
This morning, an airline began providing round-trip service to Washington, D.C. Phil Campbell has a report.
If you have to make frequent flights to our nation's capital, Eastern's announcement is bound to be good news for you. Starting today, Eastern is providing direct round-trip service to Washington, D.C. Eastern Board Chairman Frank Borman was in Huntsville today, and he told the press and Rotary Club members that deregulation brought out the best in the airline business, even though the industry didn't want to be deregulated 7 years ago. He added that air travel is still the best way to go because airfares have remained basically stable despite rising costs. Currently, there is only one round-trip flight scheduled from Huntsville to Washington. That's because it's hard for airlines to schedule hangar space for their planes at Washington National Airport.
It's a slot-controlled airport. So we had to take service away from one city to put it here. We didn't get any new slots for it. So until this one builds up, we really can't look forward to any more expansion in that area.
The flights will leave Huntsville at 6:30 in the morning and return from Washington at 8 in the evening, with stops in Knoxville both ways. The flights will run every day except Sunday. Phil Campbell, Action News 19, Huntsville.
While airline deregulation has been good for some areas, that is not the case in the Shoals. As Bill Irwin reports tonight, the Muscle Shoals Airport is now being served by only one airline.
At one time, Republic Airlines was getting over $500,000 per year in subsidies from the government to maintain air service to Muscle Shoals. With deregulation, that was stopped. And on May 31st of 1984, Republic stopped serving the Shoals area. Officials said it wasn't profitable. Since that time, 2 of the 3 commuter airlines have called it quits here. The only one that remains now is Atlantic Southeast. They run 7 flights daily to Atlanta and Memphis. And while business is certainly not what it used to be at Muscle Shoals, ASA is getting by.
Business is doing okay. We are still here. We are still servicing Atlanta and Memphis.
There's talk that Republic Express might want to set up shop here at Muscle Shoals. That's the commuter airline division of Republic. But with a large part of the flying public now driving to Huntsville, Birmingham, Memphis, and Nashville to catch their planes, there's a question of whether it'll work.
Right now, all the service that we have is really, there's not enough here to support more than one airline. We are trying to maintain the flights we have, but there just doesn't seem to be enough support.
Some say the support does not exist because of prices. Another airline, they say, would create competition and bring those prices down. Bill Irwin, Action News 19 in Muscle Shoals.
Authorities in Butts County, Georgia say contaminated fuel is to blame for a plane crash that killed 17 people Sunday. The fuel was checked last Thursday by employees of an air freight company.
They had drained some fuel from it. It was described as being the color of black coffee. And, the director of maintenance for Midnight Express informed the FAA person and the pilot that it was not to be flown by any Midnight Express personnel because of contaminated fuel. They further informed the FAA official there that they had notified the owner of the aircraft, and they had placed a sheet of yellow paper on the yoke of the airplane saying that it was not to be flown because of fuel contamination.
Burnett says the pilot obviously ignored the warning. There is also a possibility that the plane was carrying too heavy a load before the fatal crash. Governor Wallace will be a little late arriving to the Orient on an industry hunting trip. The governor was supposed to leave at 10:30 this morning, but mechanical problems with the plane forced the delay until this afternoon. During his 20-day trip, Wallace will visit Japan, Korea, and China in search of industry and to exchange relationships. About 100 business executives and 11 reporters will join him at various points during the trip.
Alabama Congressman Ronnie Flippo wants Big Brother to keep an eye on the Tennessee Valley Authority. Flippo today introduced legislation calling for an inspector general appointed by the president to keep tabs on TVA. The official would be confirmed by the Senate and report directly to both the TVA board and Congress. The Florence Democrat says the bill is a positive step in assisting TVA in improving its credibility. Flippo says the measure would improve TVA's communications with Congress and with people who pay the bills. 12 other congressmen from the 7-state TVA region are co-sponsoring the bill. Among them, Representative Tom Bevel.
The town of Gurley shot to the top of a nationwide list at the stroke of midnight. With the addition of Madison County's new half-cent sales tax, Gurley now has the highest local tax in the country. As Mike Newton reports, that's a distinction shoppers there would rather do without.
This is a rainy day in the town of Gurley. Gurley has one school, one supermarket, and of course one feed and seed store. It also has a new distinction, a new number one. It has the largest local sales tax in the country. Gurley made the top of that list at midnight when Madison County's new half-cent sales tax went into effect. Gurley has a 4-cent state tax, a 3-cent city tax, and a 1.5-cent county tax, making that a grand total of 8.5%, beating out the Big Apple, New York, which has a local sales tax of 8.25%. Now, granted, Gurley is not as large and does not have as many expenses as New York City. Its budget this year is $500,000, but half of that is in the form of a grant to build a new sewer system. There are no high-rises, no skyscrapers in Gurley. In fact, the tallest building is the high school. Coincidentally, that's where the county says it's going to spend that extra tax revenue.
About a year ago, we lost our beer sales because Scottsboro went wet. And that hurt us to the tune of about $60,000 a year. Now, being from Huntsville, that doesn't sound like much, but in Gurley, that's a lot of money.
In Gurley, there are 4 policemen, a volunteer fire department, and a part-time mayor. And in this town of 800, an 8.5% sales tax is a bit surprising.
I think that's a little bit too much for Gurley.
But Gurley may have to relinquish that top spot. The city council believes that within the next year, there's a good chance that they will lower their city tax. Mike Newton, Action News 19 in Gurley.
This next story is about something most of us probably take for granted, our eyesight. But for others, it's a valuable part of life they've lost. Well, there's an eye bank in Huntsville that can restore sight to some of those people. But as Tammy Lawson reports, there's simply not enough donors. And for those who want to help, signing a donor card is not enough.
Well, I'm waiting for a donor. That's what they said I need. If I have to get a cornea transplant, they don't seem to have enough volunteer donors.
Edwin Malley will be 89 this month, and he's losing his eyesight. All he can see is vague figures. He lives alone, and he's memorized where everything is in his apartment, so he won't have to be dependent on others. But in a way, Mr. Malley is dependent. If a donor isn't found soon, he will eventually no longer be self-sufficient.
I am afraid, yes. I'm afraid that I don't know what. They might as well kill me because I don't want to go. No, not to a nursing home. It's like I've seen people that are like vegetables.
Last June, the Alabama Eye and Tissue Bank opened in Huntsville, and Mr. Malley is one of 35 other North Alabamians waiting for donors. But the problem is finding them, because under Alabama law, it takes more than indicating you're a donor on your driver's license. The next of kin must also give their consent.
It's good to let a close friend or your minister or someone who is most likely to be involved at the time of your death know of your wishes ahead of time, so that when that time occurs, sometimes your wishes are overlooked in the process of discussing funeral arrangements and everything, and within a 6-hour period is when we have to obtain the tissue.
I have hope that there will be some people who have heart enough to realize that a lot of a big number of people need their eyes to get to enjoy life.
Tammy Lawson, Action News 19.
Repair work at the Limestone County Jail has been complete for some time now, but the state fire marshal is still not satisfied. State inmates began a $300,000 project of renovating and repairing the lockup in January. The work was initiated to bring the jail in compliance with the fire marshal's orders. An inspection of the facility a few weeks ago showed that almost everything was okay, but the fire marshal cited the jail for apparently being understaffed. There are now 5 jailers and 3 matrons here, and that's not enough. So a court date has been set for November 15th to decide what's going to be done about the problem. Limestone County officials say at this time they have no proposals.
A man whose murder conviction was overturned by the Supreme Court is getting a new trial, but not where his attorneys want it to be. During a hearing today, attorneys for 33-year-old Tommy Arthur asked the judge for a trial to be held outside of Colbert County. However, that request was denied. There was a motion by Arthur to have his court-appointed attorneys dismissed. Arthur is charged with the 1982 shooting death of a Muscle Shoals man, Troy Wicker. He was convicted of the murder and sentenced to death, but that was later overturned. No new trial date has been set. A 29-year-old Limestone County man is recuperating tonight from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. As Alice Hargrove reports, James Henderson was found by his girlfriend this afternoon, shortly after he shot himself.
Limestone County authorities received a call that a shooting had occurred just off Highway 251. They arrived on the scene to find 29-year-old James Henderson suffering from a gunshot wound to the upper chest. Henderson had been shot with a .22 Magnum rifle. A suicide note was found at the scene, leading authorities to conclude Henderson shot himself. This is the 3rd suicide attempt in Limestone County since September 1st. 3 other people died during the same period, all suicides. That's more than the county has ever experienced during such a short period. Psychologists say there are a number of reasons why people try to take their own lives. Prolonged depression because of family problems, financial troubles, terminal illness, the death of a family member, or the loss of a job. Some individuals reach a point where they feel they just can't cope anymore. Many times the signs are there, but you may have to look hard to see them. If you know someone who's having difficulty adjusting to dramatic changes in their lives, psychologists recommend that you encourage them to seek professional help. James Henderson is now in the Athens Limestone County Hospital in fair condition. Alice Hargrove, Action News 19, Limestone County.
A television movie airing tonight on CBS, Murder by Reason of Insanity, has the Mental Health Association upset. It seems movies dealing with the mentally ill typically depict them as violent. But Dr. Gary Poirier, director of the Huntsville Madison County Mental Health Center, says that image is a public misconception, and he says the insanity plea is not being used as widely as thought.
The portrayal of the thing that's going to take place on the TV ad, Murder by Reason of Insanity, I have not seen it yet, but I know that the plea that many of the public are aware of is that it's either getting people off or excusing their behavior is the not guilty by reason of insanity plea. That is also only used in between 1% and 2% of all criminal cases, and that is even declining now because of the Hinckley case. So,
Poirier says there is now a National Mental Health Association committee working with film producers to try and improve the image of the mentally ill. Investigators in Cleveland, Tennessee believe a Watts Bar nuclear plant worker may have been killed by a hitman. Judith Penley was shot to death last Thursday night as she sat in a car at a Cleveland truck stop. Penley was one of several nuclear plant employees who had blown the whistle about shoddy work at the plant. Investigators say there are elements to the crime that point to a professional job. Currently, the car is being examined and shell casings found at the murder scene have been sent to the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation lab in Nashville. Penley was buried yesterday.
It doesn't feel like fall. It feels like winter outside.
Sure does, especially when you have a difference in temperatures like we've had today. Last night at this time it was 70 degrees. Tonight it is at least 21 degrees cooler.
I know. I woke up in the middle of the night. I had my window open, and I was frozen solid about 5 o'clock this morning.
Grabbed the blankets in a
I
hurry.
did.
It is cold out there, and unfortunately this is going to stay with us for at least another day or so. Take a look at our current conditions, and you can see the temperatures are indeed chilly, to say the least. Right now, 49 degrees in Huntsville, slightly warmer in Muscle Shoals at 53 degrees. There are some light showers across the entire valley. Drizzle where rain is not evident right now. Humidity is at 89%, and the winds are out of the north at 9, and that's where all the chilliness comes from. And the air pollution index today, 17 and good, and partially because there's so much humidity holding in the pollutants. Low last night, 50, high today, 59, and the high was at midnight last night. The thermometer has been going down steadily since then. Rainfall for Huntsville, well over 2 inches as the front has passed over us, and the rain showers are just kind of sticking with us for right now. Taking a look at the southeast, you can see the front is actually out here stretching along the leading edge of these clouds from Mobile, kind of stretching out into Georgia and on up the coast. But everything behind here are some of the latent showers behind it, and they're just kind of sitting here because the front is moving very, very slowly right now. As it does that, it dumps incredible amounts of rain from Rome, Georgia, and Athens, Georgia, on down into Atlanta today. Atlanta seeing more than 3 inches of rain, and several of the streams in Atlanta were at bank full this afternoon, so they do have flash flood warnings out for that entire area. We have been fairly lucky that our rainfall amounts have stayed on a much lower order right now, and it has been a fairly good period of time for us as far as rainfall. We haven't had any bad flooding or anything at all from that, and that should continue, but the clouds will stick with us. There is some clearing out in Mississippi, but that's not going to last much longer either, and I'll tell you why in just a second. Looking at the rest of the nation, you can see the clouds extending all the way down from New Orleans all the way up into Canada, and it's been very dry. They're finally getting some rain in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, but it's been so dry that last month they only got a quarter-inch rain for a whole month. Normally they have over 2 inches. It's the driest September on record for them in the last 33 years. Taking a look at digital radar, the showers we're seeing right now are fairly light behind the front. Heaviest ones, still some thunder showers moving into the Carolinas, but light rains extending all the way down through Alabama. The shoals right on the edge of the showers back into Mississippi, their rainfall has ended. Some thunder showers are out in the Gulf, and we have some heavy rains again out in the west. Primarily, though, some snow showers beginning to start again in Montana as a new storm is trying to gear up and develop, while we have some scattered thunder showers throughout Arizona. Temperatures have been very, very cold with this as it has moved on through. New records for the date. St. Louis got down to 36 degrees last night, 39 degrees in Lubbock, Texas. Even as far south as Corpus Christi got down to 52 degrees last night, so it has been very, very chilly with this. We expect to see cold temperatures continuing tonight as the high pressure remains over us. Then tomorrow, showers lingering more towards the afternoon because the front will turn into a warm front and we'll get a backdoor effect with some showers coming our way again. Here's the forecast for tonight. We're looking for rainy, windy, and cool again. So keep that blanket handy, Kimberly. Low of 47 degrees. As we look at the next 5 days, you can see temperatures should be getting up probably into the 50s as showers continue. Won't see 70s until Saturday, but we hope to see some clearing late Saturday and Sunday. The temperatures will remain on the cool side, I'm afraid.
Okay, thanks a lot, Jim. Jerry?
Coming up in sports, a local athlete goes a long way from home to become a professional, and the guy who led Tennessee past Auburn becomes a cover boy. Stay tuned. You know, it's kind of nice to see local guys do well, and I'm not talking about Steve Johnson. We're talking about Bobby Lee Hurst.
Yes, we are. You know, it's weird. It's kind of strange. I remember covering Bobby Lee when he was in high school.
That's right.
And now he's a pro.
Telling your age.
I guess that makes me an old guy. Well, anyway, not much need to introduce Bobby Lee Hurst, the Butler High grad, a 4-year basketball star at Alabama, a second-round draft choice of the NBA Golden State Warriors. And today, Bobby Lee Hurst announced that he has indeed signed a pro contract, but not with Golden State.
He will sign a 1-year, guaranteed, no-cut contract with Barcelona. The contract will expire in June of 1986.
NBA agent Steve Wilson wouldn't reveal the money involved. He says Bobby Lee got a better contract than the Golden State Warriors were willing to agree to.
That was my dream. Be able to play NBA basketball, which I'm sure I'm able to play NBA basketball, but consideration, the money wasn't exactly where I wanted to be, and my contract wasn't guaranteed. So I think I have a better chance to go and play basketball in Spain.
Not that Bobby Lee has doubts about his NBA ability. He thinks he can play. Number 34 for Alabama plans to put his year with Barcelona to very good use.
I would say if I go to Spain and have a good year, which I'm capable of, and going to come back and be capable of playing with any NBA team that I prefer.
I think you will be. Well, the other college football poll out this morning, and just like last evening's AP ratings, UPI has Iowa number 1. The Hawkeyes with 19 first-place votes to 14 for second-ranked Oklahoma. Ohio State, Florida State, and Michigan round out the top 5. The second 5 with Oklahoma State, Penn State, Alabama up to 8th from 10th last week, then LSU and Nebraska. And the second 10, Auburn now 13th after losing to Tennessee, while the Vols now 14th after beating Auburn. And Georgia, the other rated SEC team in the 18th spot. You Tide football fans might mark this on your calendar. Alabama's game a week from Saturday against Penn State has been changed to a 2:30 start time for television reasons. That's 2:30 our time. At Auburn, Pat Dye says anyone who knew anything about football knew Auburn wasn't as good as the team was predicted to be. He says he never thought they were number one and never said they were. But Dye says the team has potential, though it is not hitting on all cylinders. Well, Tennessee fans going to find out if the Sports Illustrated cover jinx holds true. All quarterback Tony Robinson will be on this week's cover. That, of course, for his performance against Auburn. Sports Illustrated at the UT Auburn game for an article on Bo Jackson, but Robinson fixed that with his doing. So far, Tony passing for 646 yards and 6 touchdowns, hitting 65% of his passes. And one other magazine note, in the 2 most recent issues of TV Guide, there are selections out of Howard Cosell's forthcoming book, I Never Played the Game. Folks, read the TV Guide. Don't waste your money on the book. 2 doses of pompous, bitter, self-serving, backstabbing bragging are all you'll be able to take. If you're like me, well, you've never liked Humble Howard anyway. If you liked him before, you won't after you read the TV Guide article. The Alabama High School Athletic Association has passed out some penalties. 2 schools getting wrapped. Lexington and Bradshaw both fined $150 and put on probation for a year. That for participating in an illegal volleyball match. Didn't take long for the first NFL coaching casualty with his team on 0-4 and outscored 46-100. Kay Stevenson has been fired by the Buffalo Bills. He's been replaced by defensive coordinator Hank Below. From baseball, game this afternoon in cold Chicago. They do not call it the Windy City for nothing. But it didn't seem to bother Leon Durham and Jody Davis. Both homer against Rick Russell, and the Cubs go on to post a 4-3 victory. The final score in that, 4-3, San Francisco 6, Cincinnati 7. And Atlanta, what else? Losing today to Houston 2-0. Braves fans probably feel like I'm mean to their team, but nah, they're bad. Yep. That's right. Nobody else cares. Kimberly?
Up next, home roasted in Huntsville. Stay with us. Here's another look at some of tonight's top news stories. Eastern Airlines has begun offering round-trip air service to Washington, D.C. from Huntsville. The flights will leave every day except Sunday at 6:30 in the morning and return at 8 in the evening. Governor Wallace is on his way to the Orient. During the 20-day trip, he'll visit Japan, Korea, and China in search of new industry. The town of Gurley now has the highest local tax in the country. When Madison County's new tax hike took effect at midnight last night, it raised Gurley's sales tax to 8.5%.
Yesterday, Dick Curtis told us about the Huntsville Coffee Company, a local coffee roaster and distributor from the 1920s. While the Huntsville Coffee Company shut down during the Depression, Dick says the spirit of the old business lives on today.
You're about to witness the birth of a cup of coffee. The birth of a fresh cup of coffee, I should say. Grant Heath performs such coffee magic 6 mornings a week, downtown at the Coffee Clutch Coffee Shop. The secret to his fresh coffee is this 1929 machine. It takes raw green coffee beans from Central and South America and turns them into beautiful brown beans, roasted and ready for grinding.
Yes, it's a fine old machine. I don't think they make them any better than that. I really prefer the old type of machine after the new jet age computerized roaster.
There is nothing automatic about Grant's coffee roaster. It does what he commands it to do. It's Grant who decides when the coffee beans have been roasted long enough. That's why he continually checks them for color. The longer they stay in the roaster, the darker they get. Altogether, Grant roasts 45 different coffees, including the world's most expensive coffee bean, the Jamaican Blue Mountain, that goes for $22 a pound.
It's grown at an altitude of 8,000 feet in the Blue Mountains of Jamaica. It has a perfect balance of altitude, climate, soil, just to make a delight, smooth, sweet-tasting cup of coffee.
You might wonder what's the big deal about drinking freshly roasted and ground coffee. Well, those coffee lovers who frequent the coffee clutch know there is a difference.
Really fresh, really strong, gets me going.
Works better than most of the other coffee rounds.
Works better. Grant's famous coffee beans don't just stay in Huntsville. He ships them to stores from Birmingham to Nashville, though it's the people in downtown Huntsville who get the best deal. They get to smell the coffee beans being roasted. This is Dick Curtis at Large, Huntsville.
One of the greatest smells in the
Oh,
world,
it
too.
is. It is. That's all of our time for now. We'll see you later tonight.
Good night.